What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy. And I'm sorry that we have not had a Victory Polo Monday in what feels like forever at this point in time. The Dallas Cowboys, of course, lost on Sunday to the Philadelphia Eagles 34-6. They lost to the Eagles. And you and I don't even really care about that, which is really representative of where this team is at this particular moment in time. Today, for me, is Monday, November the 11th. Monday Night Football is actually about to start in real time for me. It's been a very busy day, obviously, lots of things to get to that we're about to discuss. So apologies for just now shooting this. But as you know, I am committed to you here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. I will always make sure you have content filling your feed, filling your subscription channel or whatever it's called. But if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please consider doing so. We are hoping to get to 30,000 subscribers before the season is over. Starting to feel a little grim, starting to feel like a fourth quarter at AT&T Stadium these days, if you know what I'm saying. But you never know. You never know what could possibly happen. If you like what I do, you can follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at RJ Ochoa. Actually, speaking of Threads, shout out to my friends at Meta and Threads who hooked me up. Been part of the Say More season all season long over at Threads. It's been a lot of fun. So if you're on Threads, if you're not on Threads, get over there. Follow me at RJ Ochoa. It's a good time. TikTok, RJ.Ochoa, RJ.Ochoa at SBNation.com is also how you email me if that is more your speed. You can also leave a comment down below, and I'll do my very best to get to those as well. So every day after the Dallas Cowboys play a game, win or lose, obviously more of the latter these days, I record a video. I also write an article. I also do a social post, and it's day after thoughts. And it's something that I think is helpful because it allows for a night's rest, right? Some time to kind of sit back, think, reflect, let things marinate. Maybe we feel, a little bit less intense than we did in the initial moments. And you can see my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions in the initial moments in our post-game show. That's obviously back in our feed. If you subscribe back in our channel, shout out to my friends at Bleacher Report. I do my live shows through their app, and then it comes over here for you all. But sometimes we feel even more strongly. We feel even more conviction in the points that we held at that particular moment in time. And I think that that's where we're all at today. We're going to take a look at my article here over at bloggingtheboys.com. I'll put the link to it down in the description below. Sorry about that video there. Let me scroll down. And these are three thoughts that I have generally, and I think they kind of encapsulate everything that we're feeling these days as Dallas Cowboys fans. So let's go ahead and get to it. Number one, it's hard to remember the last good thing that happened to this team. And as you can see, I have this picture here. I think that shows up for you. It's my opinion, my belief, that this was the last good moment for the Dallas Cowboys. It's certainly the last time that was good, and we didn't know it. In case you don't remember, this is a photo from December 30th of last year, 2023, to be clear. We're almost a full year removed from that, by the way, even though the weather is not cooperating. Get cold outside. Geez, seriously. But anyway, this was the night that Jimmy Johnson was, finally rightfully enshrined into the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. It was awesome. And in case you forgot, that was at halftime of a Saturday night game, the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Detroit Lions. And it was just kind of a weird evening, weird game. We still were not really believing that the Eagles were going to fully collapse and allow the Cowboys to win the NFC East. Obviously, they would. And the Cowboys not only saw Jimmy Johnson go into the Ring of Honor, but the Cowboys also won that game. And it was controversial. And it kind of felt like, man, this really might be their year because they're still in these games. They're getting lucky. The breaks are going their way. Because I think we all understand that the officiating error at the end really benefited the Cowboys. We don't have to sit here and kind of rehash that in significant fashion. But excuse me, you get my point. And I think that when that night ended, and I don't recall exactly what I said in that post-game show, but I know it is available here on our channel if you want to go back and watch it. It did feel like we are untouchable. At the very least, it felt like this team is going to get to the NFC Championship game, and they'll probably lose to the San Francisco 49ers, but we can accept that. Think about how sad that is, and think about how sad that was and how sad that remains, that our bar of acceptance, our bar of mediocrity has been lowered so much, and the actual mediocrity level of this team has been lowered so much that we were content with go get blown out in the NFC Championship game by the team who owns you. We'll be fine because you'll have gotten there at least. And we'll be able to say that you got there because we haven't been able to say that for almost 3 decades at this point in time. And we had no idea but everything would kind of go to hell immediately. Now, the Cowboys did win their very next game in week 18. They went to Washington. They won, although if you remember, it was a little bit touch and go, but they did win that game and clinched the NFC East. And because they'd beaten the Lions, they had the number 2 seed in the NFC. And we all thought they're undefeated at home. This is it. Again, you're going to, at the very least, get to go to San Francisco. And who knows, maybe you actually pull it off and you get to the Super Bowl, and then the Chiefs will vanquish you, right? And ever since then, again, really ever since that moment in time when Jimmy Johnson went into the Ring of Honor, everything has been broken for the Dallas Cowboys, losing to the Green Bay Packers in historically bad fashion, becoming the first 2 seed in NFL history to lose in the wild card round. Granted, that's only been possible since 2021 when the league expanded to 3 wild card teams and got rid of the bye for the team with the 2nd overall seed. You do have to wonder how the Cowboys would have looked if they were playing in an old format where they had a bye in the first round, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not here to make up for the 2023 Dallas Cowboys. And then the offseason from hell, right? The all-in, the not doing anything, the no free agency, the being the last team again to sign an external free agent. And in fact, the very first external free agent who the Dallas Cowboys signed in free agency this past year, I'm not making this up. You can go back and look. This happened this year in 2024. It was Eric Kendricks, who earlier that morning of that day agreed to terms with the San Francisco 49ers. They didn't even do it on their own. They literally copied and pasted things as far as I'm concerned. And then, talking about bringing Zeke Elliott back, despite the fact that made no sense. And then actually bringing Zeke Elliott back after a subpar draft. And look, I've said this before, and I say it because it is my job to give you what I believe are the important details relative to the Dallas Cowboys. And I've told you this before, so you've probably heard it because I know you watch all my videos, and that makes my heart very happy. But the Dallas Cowboys signed Zeke Elliott back to their team in 2024 on the Monday morning after the 2024 NFL draft. I was doing morning radio at the time for San Antonio Sports Star, so I was up at the crack of dawn. Actually, I was up before dawn. And they signed him about 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. That was when the report from Tom Pelissero broke. You can go check the timestamp of the tweets or whatever you want. All right, maybe not quite 6 a.m., but it was very, very early in the morning is my point. And the reason this is important is because that Monday after the draft was the first day in which signing Zeke would not impact Stephen Jones's precious compensatory formula. There is an argument to be made, and I wrote this in the article, and I've said this many times. There is an argument to be made that the day in which the Cowboys signed Zeke Elliott this year in 2024 was the very first day that they could technically sign him after releasing him in the offseason of 2023. We know, and look, we're not here mocking it, but we know that it hurt the Cowboys greatly to cut Zeke and to have to accept that the contract and all that stuff was a mistake. They literally, quite literally, brought him back at the very first moment that they possibly could. Think about that for a second. And then think about everything that followed that. Not doing anything else in free agency, realizing once they got to training camp, oh crap, we might need a defensive tackle or two. All of the pot stirring, all of the gaslighting, delaying the extensions for CeeDee Lamb, for Dak Prescott, not getting an extension done with Micah Parsons, despite not learning that lesson with CeeDee Lamb once over, Dak Prescott twice over, and not signing Dak Prescott until literally the day that the season began. And then all this stuff that we've had to watch, all that I just said was before the season even began. Then the football of it all, the terrible football of it all, sending Mike McCarthy into this lame duck year, which is a really unkind thing to do to him and his staff. And to think about the arrogance behind signing Mike Zimmer to a 1-year deal to be the team's defensive coordinator. But I digress. We don't have the time to go into all of the demerits that you could rightfully sling at this team. All right. But setting everybody up to know that he is in a lame duck year. I mean, this was purposefully designed to break, with the slightest little breeze. And so, I mean, after, hurricane force winds, look at where it's at right now. I mean, this is a disaster. And I've said this many times as well. This is a different kind of disaster. And I know there are some of you who come and like to troll, that root for other teams, and I'm happy that we can provide you some level of entertainment. But we have said things in the past that were true, that other Dallas Cowboys seasons were bad. We've all lived through seasons like that, but this one is worse. This one is uniquely toxic, uniquely bad. And that's why the last time we had any level of fun feels very, very, very long ago in the rearview mirror. Let's get to my second day after thought. And that is that the reality here is that there is nothing that can be done mid-season to fix this. Now, I see all of you, and I mentioned this in the post-game show for those of you who didn't check it out. I see all of you. I see all of your comments. I get all of your tweets, all of your threads replies, all of your Instagram comments. Thank you very much for them. I see all of you. We need to fire Mike McCarthy. We need to move on. They better fire Mike. Mike has to go right now. And I'm not going to sit here and defend Mike McCarthy to you, to be very clear. I've carried that water, and I believed in it when I did. I'm not going to do that right now. So what I'm about to say is not about defending Mike McCarthy, okay? But what does that accomplish? Seriously, I mean, like let's be real about this. what does that accomplish in the grand scheme, in the big picture? What does that accomplish? What needle does that move? You fire Mike McCarthy, you feel good, right? You got some blood on your sword. That's kind of what you seem to want. And I understand that emotion, all right? But Mike Zimmer runs this thing. The Mike Zimmer who has helped oversee the defense that has now allowed their team to have a 20-point deficit in 5 consecutive games at home. Granted, Mike Zimmer wasn't the defensive coordinator for the first game that happened, which was the playoff loss to Green Bay. You're going to turn to Mike Zimmer. You're going to let Al Harris run the show. And look, I love Al Harris. All right. So what I'm about to say is definitely not a slight against him, but I don't want to see Al Harris run the show because this problem is so deeply rooted. I mean, this requires the surgeon among surgeons. This requires the medical professional among medical professionals. This one requires the specialist that Dak Prescott has apparently gone to see in New York relative to his hamstring injury, right? And I think Al Harris can be and will be an amazing NFL head coach. But I think that Al Harris, it's going to be his first head coaching job, obviously. I mean, who could do that? Who could come into this mess without any experience? Again, not a slight against Al Harris and take over. And that's not to say I want Bill Belichick or I want this or I want that, but I just think that would be going down the wrong road. I think that the Cowboys made that mistake by turning to Jason Garrett. Now, granted, there was some, our guy, energy to that. This was a long time ago now, 14 years ago, but I do not want to go down that path because we've done that before. And I don't know what the answer is, okay? But I know that I don't want to do that. And so my point back to Mike McCarthy is firing him offers nothing. And even then, even just practically speaking, do you really think that this front office is going to work more? I mean, because that's what that would involve, right? They would have to fire Mike McCarthy, and then they would have to work a little bit harder. They would have to have more meetings and do more things than they wouldn't have to do if they didn't fire Mike McCarthy. They could just sit back, relax, let Mike be the guy who takes all the insults and everybody makes fun of on the internet, and everybody's going to make fun of them no matter what. So why make their lives more complicated? So we are just trapped in this thing. We are trapped on this ride for 8 more games, my friends. I'm sorry, but that is simply just the way it is. A great Celine Dion song, by the way. By the way, remember when Celine Dion did the intro before Cowboys Steelers? That feels like forever ago. I mean, it really does, if we're being honest here. Final day after thought, and then I have something else I want to get to. The way I worded this, I liked. I mean, I wrote it, but I liked it a lot. But the lack of a true North Star is the most disconcerting thing at the moment. And here's what I mean by this. Over the offseason, what I was upset about the most, all right, wasn't necessarily not extending Dak, not extending CD. What I was upset about was the lack of a North Star, the lack of one direction that everything was headed in. If you don't want to sign Dak, fine. I disagree with, like, let's I'm reverting back to the days of the offseason, the days we had these conversations over and over and over again, right? You don't want to sign Dak, fine. I disagree with you, but if you're not going to do it, then let's move forward with not doing it, right? You can make an argument, I would say a sound one that I would disagree with, but you can make an argument that they should have passed a point of no return, right? There should have been a point in time that they reached where they said to themselves, we didn't get the deal done, and we understand this is a risk, but we're going to do it because now if we do it, we've done it in the most inefficient manner possible. And that's what they did. They got the Dak deal done and the CD deal done in quite literally the most inefficient ways possible. So there's all these people who say things like, I've been saying it all along. This team is organically tanking. Why? First of all, what merit is there to that? I mean, what would be the reason to organically tank? I've never understood this take. And second of all, what suggests to you that they're organically tanking? Because I would buy what you're selling. I would buy that they're organically tanking or soft rebuilding or whatever you want to call it if they hadn't gotten the Dak deal done, if they hadn't gotten the CD deal done, if they had traded away some assets, right? We could point everything in a singular direction towards one common North Star. That's what I'm saying. There's all people who obviously want to talk about all in and all this jazz and blah, blah. If they had signed Dak and CD the first moment that they could, if they had gotten the Mike extension done the moment that they could, if they were heavy active in free agency and trading up in the NFL draft, then you could say, okay, well, their North Star is trying to win right now. They're loading up right now. But you can't do that. You can't. They have their hands in different cookie jars because they're delaying these extensions. They're saying they're going to do this. They're trading a 4th-round draft pick for Jonathan Mingo. They're compromising the future and the present, and that's not aligned towards any singular one thing. And if you're operating towards 2 different things, you're spending so much energy, and you have to spend some energy, by the way, talking about the freaking sun and game planning for the sun, that it's just not possible to contend and to compete on a serious level. So that's my thing. And it's not a thing of the past because it hasn't even been a week as I sit here and I record this video since they traded that 4th-round draft pick for Jonathan Mingo. They do not have one common direction, one common North Star where they are focused. They do not have a singular direction that everything is geared and directed to. I feel for Dak Prescott. I would love to see Dak Prescott play football again. But again, if they were this devoted to one singular cause, one singular disposition, one singular mantra, they would have said, Dak, this is super unfortunate, man. We're sorry that we messed this up the way that we did, but we're going to put you on IR. You can delay surgery if you want, whatever, but we have to do what's in the best interest of this team. And we have not seen them do what is in the best interest of this team. And I don't even know how long. We have just seen them do whatever they feel like doing, right? However they feel on a random Tuesday or a random Friday or a random Sunday afternoon, whatever they feel like saying, whatever they feel like doing, that's what it is. There's no way to connect any of these dots. And that's my point. The dots have to be able to be lined up in one singular way. It can go north, it can go south, it can go east, it can go west, it can go any one direction. And if you and I disagree with the direction, then that's a different conversation. But at least you're heading in a singular direction. At least you're trying to do something very specific. This team isn't trying to do anything other than exist, other than tread water, other than maintain the status quo, other than generate headlines, other than be, frankly, the biggest circus they can be. And if you don't believe me, take a look at the latest thing that had to do with the Sun. This popped up on let me get this up on your screen now. On Monday, right before Mike McCarthy's press conference, the local media, obviously in attendance for. This is a tweet from Saad Yousuf, who does an incredible job covering the Dallas Cowboys, and anything that Saad does is amazing, and I make sure to read. If you haven't followed Saad yet, make sure you do so. This is his tweet, obviously. You can read. This is Saad's tweet. I'll just read it for you. There's something in the press conference room today to block the sun from being directly in the coach's eyes as he speaks. Interesting concept. Obviously, Saad making a little bit of a joke there. I mean, what? And look, the obvious jokes got made here. And I'm somebody who really hates obvious jokes. I hate when people make obvious jokes and act like they're clever and they're unique. That bothers me a lot, just in a general sort of rule of life way. But I mean, tell me, I hate to be conspiracy theorist about this, but tell me that they're not screwing with us. I mean, tell me that the Dallas Cowboys are not saying, you want some shades, you want some curtains, the sun's an issue. Here you go. They turned the thing that we all hate into content. And that's our job. All right. That's my job. All right. And because I'm not the person charged with making this, making sure this team has success. And it is just an ongoing joke. I mean, really, it is a question of how can we turn it into something to benefit us, as long as it doesn't involve compromising our end all be all. And that's a big reason why they won't get rid of the freaking sun or put up curtains or whatever you want to call it, because it's a conversation. And that's really my biggest day afterthought, is that as long as the conversation keeps on going, that's life. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at RJ Ochoa. On TikTok, rj.ochoa, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com is how you email me. You can also leave a comment down below, and I will do my very best to get to those as well. It's a tough time to be a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I'm grateful that we have each other. Seriously, I really mean that. I'll say it a few more times throughout the week as we go along through our normal rhymes, rhythms, and procedures, but I will not have a post-game show after next week's game, after Monday Night Football. I'm going to the game. I haven't been to a Cowboys game in the stands in a very long time, about 5 years now, going with my dad. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. So if you're going to be there, if you're going to be at the game, whatever the case may be, definitely hit me up. You know where to find me on social media. We're going to be dancing around, jumping around. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to make sure we have a good time. And if you're going to be there, I'd like to, bump fists, slap hands, or whatever the case may be, and celebrate that, we're at least in each other's good company. So for now, my friends, I bid you adieu. I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll see you soon enough. We have a very special surprise in store for you. That is at least the plan on Tuesday, so be on the lookout. Make sure to subscribe. And thanks so much for hanging out. We will see you next time.